Oh, so I just finished talking to a fella from, the hell's the name of his website? Blackoutspeakout.ca. Very informative fella. I wanted to ask him about the labor policies being changed by Bill C-38, but he just wanted to talk to me about the environment. Don't argue with a hippie, you can't win. So I jotted notes when I was chatting away, and this is basically the gist, the entire environmental section of Bill C-38. This is the gist of what it is. We'll start with the Fisheries Act, because it's all about the fish. Fishy fish, oh fishy fish, I do. Oh, so the protection of our natural waterways and many types of our fish is just being outright chopped. The dominant amount of protection will now be placed on commercial, recreational, and aboriginal fisheries. Who cares about the lakes? Or the rivers? Basically, if we didn't dig the hole and throw the fish in, who gives a shit? The federal government will also be pawning off a lot of its responsibility in regards to the Fisheries Act on provinces and or private interest groups. This means that Rogers Media now owns Lake Huron. Boon! Another thing that's being changed is when it comes to figuring out the impact that we have on at-risk species, there will no longer be a grace period. So if I think that something's endangered and that we're putting it at risk via our own stupidness, I have to conclusively prove that's happening before you have to stop killing it. So if I'm a procrastinator, the entire species is extinct before I'm done my first draft kind of thing. The National Energy Board, these guys keep popping up everywhere in this little environmental list. I gotta get a job with these people because they're the closest thing to God. They are now exempt from protecting species. If they want to build a pipeline that cuts through some little swampy land that's home to the rare albino beaver, it's time for the beaver to find a new place to live. The Canadian Environmental Assessments Act is being replaced. Basically, any assessments that need to be done are going to be done as half-trunk as possible, possibly no trunk. The time that the public has to make their opinion known is being cut down to about a 20-minute span over the lunch hour. They're making sure to time it so that you're in line at Tim Hortons, so even if you wanted to talk, you can't lose your spot, because you need your bagel. And the environmental minister will have ultimate power over what happens. I slip him a couple bills when nobody's looking, and I can kick as many bunnies as I want. What do we got here? This is a little combo group. There's three of them. With the provincial government being given more power over environmental law and policy, the cabinet can no longer override any decisions made by the National Energy Board. And the Environmental Assessment Agency will no longer be allowed to review National Energy Board ideas. So any major project that the National Energy Board comes up with, the cabinet cannot say no, and nobody has the right to review their decision. So now that Rogers Media owns the lake, they're free to run wind generators from Goderich to Owen Sound right on the frickin' beach. And the only thing you can do is go down to the beach and look up at it and go, eee! In cases where environmental issues need to be reviewed, i.e., is something, it's one of those, hey, we have to commit complete and total deforestation to build a pipeline. Google Map will notice that. Any reviews done will be done behind closed doors by private interest groups. We won't know until after it happened. And then we might be given a say pending on whether Google chooses to change their maps or not. Blah blah blah, the narrowment of public engagement over hearings focused on oil again, the same thing, the National Energy Board doesn't have to tell you anything anymore. In order to participate, this is great. I love this. There's a way you can have a say in what's happening. If they want to build a pipeline that cuts through Niagara Falls, you are allowed to have a say. But in order to have a say, you have to prove that this action directly affects you. So, there are people in Alberta who can no longer bitch about the tar sands because they live far enough away from it that it doesn't actually have a direct impact on their daily lives. Amazing. And we'll end it off with the Kyoto Protocol. We're eliminating accountability of climate change. If my corporation pumps billions upon billions of tons of carbon whatever into the atmosphere, and any kid within a 200-mile radius of my factory is born with an extra ear on the back of his neck, it's not my problem because I'm not accountable. And lastly, we have the National Roundtable on Environmental and Economy Act. Their advisory body is being wiped out. So when it comes to the National Roundtable on Environmental and Economy Act, when they're sitting there and going, it's a wonderful idea to put wind turbines right on the beach. Oh, excuse me, I'm so excited I'm going hoarse. If they decide that Rogers Media is allowed to put generators on the beach, there's nobody there to be a naysayer. Because only your supporters are allowed to have an opinion on your projects. Take that, hippies.